Now, I know Iowa is not on everybody's dream list of places to move, but is it really a place that people regret moving to? Well, it absolutely is. Sorry to tell you the truth. It absolutely is a place that people regret moving to. But why is that? Well, that's what we're going to discover today. Is it for everyone? Absolutely not. But is it for someone? It absolutely is. Now, because I have this channel, I get to talk to folks from all over the place. I've talked to people from California, I've talked to people from Texas, Arizona, Florida, Colorado, really pretty much almost every state in the union, and they come here in droves. But has some of my clients said they regret coming here? Yes, they absolutely have. So I can speak with authority on this subject. But what is the reasons and what myths and things are going on to make people regret making the move here? Well, let's talk about that. The first thing is that it's cornfields everywhere. And to be honest with you, we do have a lot of cornfields, but it's not every single place. We do have cities. We have places like Davenport, the Quad Cities, which is where I'm at. We have Cedar Rapids, we have Des Moines. So we do have things other than cornfields. I mean, Des Moines area is known for tech and insurance, ironically enough. Quad Cities, Cedar Rapids is known for its manufacturing. And honestly, that doesn't take a lot of corn. But the truth is we do still have a lot of corn, and a lot of our economy is wrapped up in agriculture. That does not mean that you have to work in agriculture if you move here, but just know that it's a big part of our culture and our industry because it is everywhere. The second myth and or complaint that I hear from people that do regret it is that there is nothing to do here. Now, this is all a matter of perspective. When you're coming here from a large city, say somewhere in California like LA, or maybe even in the Midwest like Chicago, well, it can really seem like there's nothing to do. But I've heard it on both sides. I've had people come from Nashville, Tennessee, and they love it here because there are things to do all the time. The thing that they will say to you though, is you have to be looking for it in order to find it. So if you're just gonna be sitting at home, well, not looking, you're probably not gonna find anything to do. So that's one of the major reasons that people don't like it here. Now the other thing, and I actually talked to a local, actually a past local, he's moved away and he lives in Arizona now, but he came back here and we had an interview with him, and he said the biggest thing is that when you live here, sometimes it feels like you've done all of the things.
But I feel like I've been going to the same amount of shows that I did back here.
Yeah.
And here I used to go to the Raccoon all the time, and I was in the old place too, and the Rust Belt, and Mark would always have good shows.
Yep.
I do miss the steam wheelers.
And I could see that argument. We have a lot of things that come back every single year. You've done it 3, 4, 5 years in a row. Well, at that point it is a little bit redundant. So you can get that where it doesn't feel like anything is going on because you've already done all the different things that do go on. Now, that doesn't mean to say we don't have anything new, but maybe it's a little bit more limited than I'd like to admit. But here's the thing, I grew up in a small town of about 1,500 people. I moved to one of our bigger cities, which is Davenport, and I find it very refreshing to be able to go out to the downtown area, go and see events, just hop on the road, quick 5-minute drive, and be able to go and do something fun. So my perspective might be a little bit different than yours if you're coming from a larger city, a metropolitan area where there's constantly things around every single corner. But that is a big complaint when people move here. Along those same lines is people sometimes feel like they're isolated here. The isolation, there's just nobody around. Well, some people absolutely hate that, but others really, really like it. And that's not to say that we are completely isolated. I mean, we're in the Quad Cities. We have about 400,000 people, which for a Midwest town isn't too bad. But when you do compare it to a larger city, I can definitely feel where you're a bit isolated. And if you're moving here and you want to live in a rural or a small town, you're gonna feel a lot more isolated than even if you're living in a city like the Quad Cities, Davenport, Cedar Rapids, Des Moines. Any one of those, it's gonna be a lot different than if you're living in a small town similar to my small town when I grew up. So if it's all bad and gloom and doom, why would anybody choose to move here in the first place? Well, one of the main reasons I hear a lot is the affordability when it comes to Iowa. Iowa ranks under the national average on most things when it comes to cost of living. Housing's in there, utilities are in there, grocery prices are in there, and that's pretty much everything you need. You got food, shelter, and water. Hey, what else do you need? And that is a big factor for people making the move here. In fact, I was asked just the other day, hey, I want to move here from California, but I don't want to pay a mortgage. If I sell my house in California, can I buy a house here? And yeah, depending on how much your house is in California, there's a good chance that you can pay cash for a house here in Iowa that you could never get in other states like California, for example. So big driver is people want the affordability and the opportunity to live here because of that factor and that factor alone. And along the same thread as affordability is Iowa is seen as kind of a hub for remote work. Now, do we have as many remote jobs as we did back in, say, 2020, 2021? No, a lot of businesses have steered away from that, but it is a thing that has been introduced into the economy, and Iowa has infrastructure to help facilitate that. I mean, here in the Quad Cities, we just got a fiber network maybe 3-4 years ago, and we have some great speeds for internet. And if you're working remote, that is a key for you to move here because you're gonna need some good internet to do that. I have a client that's gonna be moving here from Kansas City. They work remotely. One of the requirements is to find a good place with some good internet, and we have it here as that possibility. Now they're looking at Illinois, possibly Iowa, because I live right here on the border, but either one, we have that ability to make it happen. So that's another reason is you get possibly higher salaries by working a remote job, but have that affordability and that cost of living down. So you get a good combination of both when moving here, and that's why people really want to try to make that move if it's at all possible, and they don't mind the downfalls of what's like living here in Iowa. Now, whether you will regret moving here or not, and you're still making that move, I would love to help you out. My number is popping up. I'm a licensed realtor here in the state of Iowa, but here's the thing, I don't cover the whole state. But thanks to this YouTube channel, I have made great connections with some really great real estate agents all over the state that know their markets like the back of their hand. So if you're moving here to the Quad Cities or elsewhere in Iowa, give me a call. I can hook you up with somebody that knows where things are, what things are all about. Even if you move here and regret it, at least you'll have a good entrance because you'll have an expert on your side. Now, I talk about this a lot in some of my videos, and it really comes down to the weather, okay? So the weather is actually a draw and a deterror depending on who you are. Specifically, the deterrent is our winters. We are here in the Midwest, and we do get cold winters, we get snowy winters, and very windy winters for some reason. Right now, we are headed into winter. It's about 34 degrees out here Fahrenheit, and I'm sitting in just a flannel, no gloves, and I feel pretty comfortable. But I know I run hot because my wife, she could not handle this. She's from the Philippines, grew up in Saudi Arabia, so this winter time is not her favorite, and I can see why that is. But personally, I like the cold winters. And if you're not into the cold winters, we do have our summers, which are extremely warm, and I can see why somebody may like that aspect of it. Me personally, I don't like it. I like cooler temperatures and not humidity, which in the summer we have some really high humidity because of all the cornfields that we discussed earlier are emitting heat, the corn sweat, as they like to call it around here, into the air, and it gets it really humid and gets it really hot. But those are the two extremes. In the spring and the fall, they're fairly similar, but fall for me is probably my favorite time. It's got cooler weather, it's still got some warmer days, and I just really like that time of year. But either way, it can deter people and it can make people regret moving here, especially in the winter time. In fact, the other day, my wife's like, "Why do I live here?" I'm like, "It's because you love me, right?" She said, "Okay, that's fair enough." but she doesn't like the winter. She tolerates it at best, but we are here to stay for the meantime. So it's great if you like it. It's great if you don't like it. Now, as far as I know, in the state of Iowa, we have no national parks, which can seem like a big downfall. And I actually kind of agree with that. I wish we could have a national park somewhere, but we really just don't have the landscape for it, to be quite honest. And a lot of people complain about that because they want to get out and hike, and there's no national forest or national park to do that in. But here's the thing. We still have a ton of public land, and specifically in my hometown area, the west side of Iowa, there are the Luss Hills, and I absolutely adore the Luss Hills. There are public land all over the place. You can get out, you can hike the hills. I don't know if you've ever seen the Luss Hills, but they are pretty steep. There's only 2 places in the world that have Luss Hills. That's Western Iowa and China. And let me tell you, they're no joke when it comes to hiking. So check those out. But it is a complaint for people that maybe don't live on the west side of Iowa. There's not a lot of outdoors, not a lot of hiking to do. And I can see where that is somewhat valid because we don't have any of those national parks. But you gotta take the good with the bad and understand that we do have public lands available. They may just not be a national park or a national forest. Now, what I like about Iowa is the community feel that you get here. Now, the community feel only goes as far as you would like it to go. Sometimes you just don't want to be bothered with your neighbors watching over you, but personally, I love that community aspect. I feel like other places, like in large cities, you don't have that tight-knit community. And everywhere I go in Iowa, every place I've lived in Iowa, I've always had a nice community around me. So it's definitely a positive, but some people regret that because they're not used to it and maybe they just don't like it. So if you're moving here and you'd want to know the best place for you and your family, my number is popping up down below. I can get you hooked up with myself or somebody else in the state that knows the area that you want to be in. So let me know. But in the meantime, if you want to see what this state looks like, check out this vlog where I went all over the state showing you what exactly it looks like.